Want a tiny waist and a flat stomach? This workout will do. You are struggling with that stubborn pouch. You have to do this exercise daily. Snatched hourglass shape while you have a every day. I was just kidding. You don't have to train your abs at all because abs are made in the kitchen.
Wait a damn minute.
If you search how to get abs on social, 1,000,000 different do this and not this things pop up. And it can be quite overwhelming. So today, I want to talk about how to actually get visible abs and how to properly train and engage your core. Your core is more than just your abs. If you take a slow breath with me, you'll feel your ribs move under your hands. This is where it starts. Your core is a 360-degree system that wraps around your trunk like a cylinder. Front is the rectus abdominis, the muscle that pulls your ribs towards your pelvis and helps you resist extension. On the sides are your internal and external obliques, which rotate and side bend the torso, and more importantly, they tie the rib cage to the pelvis so you can keep them stacked. Deep underneath those sit the transverse abdominis, which is also called the inner corset, which narrows the waist and helps you generate even pressure all around. Then along the back are the spinal erectors and the smaller multifidi, which keep the spine tall, and they share loads between segments and resist collapsing forward. Now above everything is the diaphragm, which is your primary breathing muscle and the top of the cylinder. Below is the pelvic floor, the base of the cylinder, which supports your organs. Together, these muscles create intra-abdominal pressure and they share load from front to back and from side to side and stabilize you as you move. Let's go over how to brace your core properly. This is what you do when you would prepare for impact or when you are about to perform a heavy lift. So step one is to stack. You want to stand tall and line everything up. Ribs gently over your pelvis, your chin is neutral and your shoulders relaxed. Then step two is to inhale quietly. Breathe in through your nose. You want to let your lower ribs, your side and your low back expand and don't lift your shoulders to inhale. Step three is to fill the belt. So imagine wearing a belt around your midsection. You want to expand into that belt in all directions. So the front, the sides and the back, and not just by pushing your belly forward. Step four would be to set the brace. So keep that 360 expansion and then gently tighten your midsection as if someone is about to poke you. And now you are firming that wall without crunching down or flaring your ribs. Breathe while braced. For most lifts, you want to keep the brace and take small sips of air between the reps to match the tension to the task. So you want to use only what you need. So about a 3 out of 10 effort for easy lifts, 6 for most working sets, and a 9 to 10 for max attempts. If you cannot speak short sentences, you might be using more tension than the task actually requires. So that is how to brace your core. However, drawing your core in is different. Drawing in is a light and precise contraction of the deep TVA, which is perfect for any low load control and for reconnecting with the transverse abdominis. This is what we do when we do our follow along workouts. So you want to start on your back and then you want to find a neutral spine where you feel long and level. So we don't want to arch our back, we don't want to have a gap. And then we want to have a long exhale. Exhale through your pursed lips and then let your ribs soften down. Step two is to gently hollow. So as the air leaves, you want to almost glide your abdomen inward a small amount as if you're zipping up your jeans. You should still be able to talk in full sentences. And then step three is to breathe around it. So you want to keep that gentle corset while you take quiet breaths. So your belly shouldn't cave dramatically. It should just feel supported while the ribs and side can still move. So why is it important to know how and when to brace or draw your core in? Well, If you don't, then pressure escapes, which is also called doming or coning. And you can see this visually when a ridge or bulge appears down the middle of your abdomen during effort. So this can happen when the movement may be too challenging right now. Maybe your timing is off or your attention just isn't distributed well. And this can also happen when you are fatigued, when you are learning new skills, or even when you're postpartum. So what to do in the moment if it happens? You want to make sure that you start your exhale before the effort, set your brace, and then move. If that doesn't work, then you can try to shorten the lever. So maybe bending the knees on a leg raise, bringing the arms closer on any overhead work, or hold the thighs in a dead bug. You can also try reducing the range, so moving through a smaller range of motion so you can keep that abdominal wall smooth. Or you can add a small pelvic tilt. So on the leg raises or hollow variations, you can lightly tuck your tailbone so that your ribs and pelvis stay stacked, or use your hands underneath your glutes, or just choose an easier pattern for now. So any big flexion move, you can swap it for an anti-rotation option, for example, until the control improves. Slowing down the tempo can also help. So moving very calmly to make sure that your breathing and tension stays organized. Let me quickly explain what some of the tasks are that your core performs. First one is the anti-extension, which means resisting arching. Think an ab wheel roll or any long lever plank. The rollouts are specifically intense in a good way because they teach you to keep your ribs and pelvis stacked while your arms reach overhead. Second is the anti-rotation, which means resisting twisting. Think a Pallof press or a suitcase carry, and these teach you to keep your rib cage and pelvis from twisting when a load tries to pull you out of line. Third is the anti-lateral flexion, which means resisting side bending. Think of a side plank or an offset carry. And these help you to stay tall and stable so you don't wobble from side to side when you move. Fourth, controlled rotation. Think cable chops. So those are especially useful for athletes because they teach you to own the twist rather than letting the twist own your spine. Fifth is flexion. For spinal flexion, use a cable crunch with a slow control. If you want to train your core from all angles, use both anti-movement and controlled flexion. You'll build function and you'll also give the muscles a hypertrophy stimulus. But why do we need to train our abs in the first place when we're already doing strength training? That is a great question. So with strength training, you build global stability across your whole trunk. If you want the strongest direct stimulus for the abdominal wall, then you want to add targeted core work. So dedicated core exercises typically produce a higher rectus abdominis activation than any integrated movements. Think, bracing your core while doing lunges. So now that we know how to train abs, how to make sure that we can actually see them. You've probably heard the sayings that abs are made in the kitchen or you cannot outtrain a bad diet. And here's the simple reason why. Fat covers your muscles. So for your abs to show through, your overall body fat levels have to be low enough for the muscle outlines to actually be visible through the fat. What counts as low enough is individual. So genetics and fat distribution matter a lot. So personally, I store my fat mainly on my lower body. So my overall body fat percentage doesn't have to be as low for my abs to show through compared to someone who tends to store their fat on their upper body. Additionally, having well-developed abs works in your favor because having thicker muscles also means that your abs will be visible faster underneath a layer of fat. And so in order to reduce body fat, you need a modest and consistent calorie deficit, which means that you take in less energy than that you expend steadily over time. Exercise helps your health and builds and keeps muscle and increases your energy output, but it is a lot harder to burn 1,000 calories from training than it is to consume them. So your day-to-day diet is what reliably creates that deficit. A sustainable deficit is small enough that you can actually live with it, and you want to aim for progress that you can maintain for weeks, not just days. While you are in a deficit, protein is insurance for your muscle. So a good target for most active people is 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Carbs and fats are flexible. I personally like to keep enough carbs around my training so that my sessions feel strong. And fats are key to control your hunger levels, but also for your hormones. So you want to choose mostly unsaturated fats, and don't forget about enough fiber. Any liquid calories, frequent alcohol intake, or frequent takeouts tend to make a deficit harder because they can add calories quickly without much fullness. Personally, I like the 80-20 rule a lot because it makes it manageable for me. So the 80-20% rule means that 80% of your intake is coming from wholesome, nutritious foods, and then 20% is soul foods. Now, your daily energy expenditure is more than just the gym. It's more than just you training. It also includes your resting metabolism, the calories that you burn digesting food, all the movement that you do outside. And therefore, small habits like walking more or standing up during calls, taking stairs, and doing brief breaks of you moving around add up in a very quiet and sustainable way. Expect the scale to bounce day to day when you are in a deficit, because hydration, sodium, fiber, timing of your meals, it can all shift your weight by a full kilogram or even more without any change in fat. Also your menstrual cycle. You want to use weekly averages. Maybe you can do a waist measurements, how your clothes fits. You can take progress photos in the same light or same time of day to seek for trend changes. If your trend stalls for 2 or more weeks, then you can make a small change. But remember that having visible abs and training or developing your abs are very different. So nutrition makes the ab visible mainly, and then training is what makes them strong and defined. However, we always have an however part in these videos. Genetics decide your ab shape and your ab count, because we have different intersections that divide your abdominis into blocks, and not everyone has the same pattern. So that's why some people, when they have visible abs, they have a 4-pack, and some people have an 8-pack. Some people have a 6-pack. It just kind of depends on what your actual muscle insertions look like. So we covered the basics about training your abs, having visible abs, nutrition, the function of your core. So what is next? I wanted to create a fun challenge that we can do to kind of kickstart our core training. So I created a 14-day ab challenge where we are training our core and our abs, and the workouts get progressively harder and more intense. If you want to follow along, then remember that you can do this challenge at your own pace, at your own time. You don't need anything, you can just do it at home. But if you notice during training that your form is lacking, that the pressure isn't fully correct, that you maybe have some doming or coning, then make sure that you either slow down the tempo, that you perform a different exercise, that you take longer breaks, whatever you need to do in order to make sure that you have good form while training. Super excited for this challenge. I hope that you will follow along. And if you do, then I'll see you tomorrow on the mat for day 1.